sometimes it's the day before an event that's the most challenging, isn't it? It's sort of like anticipation before a test, before an operation, before a key event in your life. That day before, wow, how do you cope with that? I love the bit in the Lord of the Rings films where Gandalf's talking to Pippin and he says, it's the deep breath before the plunge. Just before you're going to get into it, just before everything's going to happen. How do you prepare for that? And this is the Thursday before Good Friday, and Jesus is preparing for that most incredible of days, that Good Friday, when he's going to lay down his life on the cross, when he's going to give his life for us. And he's wanting to have some time with his disciples. He's wanting to have some food with them, so he's prepared for that to happen. He's sent them to set up a room where they're going to have a meal together. And when he arrives, the disciples are already there. And in those days, the main form of transport was either on foot or by animal. And so when you ate, you ate on a low down table and your feet would be to the side, so right near the person next to you who's eating. So it was really important that you had your feet washed, but no one wanted to wash feet that day. No one wanted to look after one another. You see, it was the job of the lowest servant to wash feet, and no one wanted to take that position. So Jesus arrives and no one's washed feet, and there's a stink in the room, and there's always a stink in the room when no one's willing to serve. And Jesus wraps himself in an apron, he takes a towel, gets a bowl, and he kneels in front of his disciples and he begins to wash their feet. And it's the only time he calls himself Lord is when he's on his knees washing their feet, serving them. And there's something important in these times about looking out for each other, caring for one another, serving one another, being willing to humble ourselves to help others through. It's really important. So they have the meal and they leave the room and they walk through Jerusalem, the crowded city that the historian Josephus tells us had grown to about 1 million people for Passover that time. And they go through the city, past the temple, through the Kidron Valley that's been expanded out as a campsite really for pilgrims. And he comes to the Mount of Olives, to Gethsemane, to the place of the olive press, the place of crushing. And Jesus asks 3 of his friends, Peter, James and John, would they just come with him and pray? And on 3 occasions he goes and prays, and he comes back and they've fallen asleep. And I wonder how that made him feel. As he's praying, he does something that I think is really helpful. He's tempted in this garden, a bit like Adam was tempted in the first garden. He's tempted to, is there another way of doing this? And he says to God the Father, Father, if it's possible, let this cup pass from me, yet not what I will, what you will. He kind of does something that's really good for our mental health. He says, this is happening and it's calling my name, and I want to find a way out, but you're calling my name and I prefer what you want. And when we're faced with challenges and difficulties, it's so good not to pretend that they're not there, but to say to God, hey, I'm struggling with this, I need your help, please help me. I really want to do what you want me to do. At Gethsemane there was an olive press and the olives were crushed 3 times. The first crushing would have been for things like anointing oil, and that reminds us, I think, that we get a connection with God. Our relationship with God's really important. The second crushing, the oil would be used, maybe a little degraded from the first, but it's used in cooking. And I guess that reminds us that we're in relationship with other people in God's family, and the importance of forgiveness and fellowship and encouragement. And then the third pressing, well, that was used for lighting, for oil lamps. And that reminds us that when we're crushed, we get to be a light. The light of Jesus shines through us. And so it's the day before. It's the day before that special occasion, that incredible occasion, that history-defining moment. And Jesus is preparing. As we go into Easter, I encourage you to prepare yourself, to prepare to learn all that God's got for you in this season, to learn and to be open to the new things and to be reminded of the old things that will strengthen you, to help you and help me to keep going. God bless you.